Good evening. Welcome to the autopsy of her healing, evolving resiliency. I am Iris Denise Owens, and on the line with me is my beautiful sister and co host.
Stephanie Deani Green.
Hey, honey bunny, how are you?
Hey, honey bunny. I'm doing great. I'm so happy
Good.
to see you. You look so beautiful.
So, thank you so much. You are always beautiful. We are
Oh,
always beautiful because that's just who we are.
now that's the truth. That's definitely the truth. I mean,
So,
it's like it's important to
yes, it
put yourself when you look good, you feel good.
absolutely,
Take
absolutely.
time for yourself. That's important.
Absolutely. And so I just want to let the audience know that this is new for us because this is the first time that we are actually recording at night.
No, 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 no. Remember, we did Patrick's at night.
Oh, that's right, but it wasn't this
Uh,
late. We
yeah,
we're
no, no, when I
we
was like 7-ish. Yeah.
yeah, we going into the bedtime hour now, honey. So listen,
Uh-huh.
if you we just want to let y'all know if you hear us yawning, don't be alarmed. We are with you all the way.
Yes, we are. I doubt if we'll be yawning. I doubt
Yeah.
that
And
seriously.
so we just want to we're gonna go ahead and jump in. And our topic today is simply gonna be daddy, poppy, dad, father, um, whatever you call him, grampy. We're just gonna talk about fatherhood today. And
Stepdad.
and we want to celebrate fathers.
Hmm.
Um, because fathers don't they definitely don't get their flowers.
They
Really,
don't. They really don't.
fathers do not get
Hmm.
their flowers. And we all have our own perspectives and our own stories and our own memories of our fathers, and some good, some bad, some
Hmm.
indifferent.
Hmm. Hmm.
And,
Hmm.
but that still doesn't mean that all fathers are not worthy of the title of father and fatherhood and of being celebrated.
Hmm.
And so that's our goal here today, is to celebrate fathers, because it's important. Fathers play an integral part in our lives, whether
Hmm.
they are present or not, whether
Hmm.
whether we're raised under the same roof with them, or
Hmm.
we go to visit them every other weekend, or we see them during the summers, or
Hmm.
we
That's right.
we're not certain who they are. They
Hmm.
still play an integral part in developing in who we become,
Hmm.
um, because we are all created by two individuals, and
Absolutely.
we garner something from both those individuals.
Hmm.
And
We do.
sometimes we don't even realize the things that we garner from our fathers
Hmm.
until we are either in the presence of our fathers, or we do something and folks always reference us and say, just like your father. And not
Uh,
in, and not in a negative way all the
no, no, no.
time.
Right, right.
My family always tells me, one of my cousins, used to say, "You just like your father. You're like a little hustler." And I would get very defensive, and I would tell her, "I am not a hustler. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a businesswoman." And that's what my father was. My father may have done some hustling, but he had the mindset to be able to go into business. And so maybe he didn't go into all the right businesses, but
Hmm.
he had
Hmm.
the vision and the ability to do so. And I
Hmm.
feel like I get that from my dad very much. I also get that, I feel like, from my grandfathers, because um my father's father, was an entrepreneur. I
Hmm.
mean, all the years that growing up and spending summers with my grandparents, I never saw my grandfather go to a job. And so I don't know what my grandfather ever but I knew that there was always food on the table. There was a roof over the head. I have inherited the land that they left, work, blood, sweat, and tears. So I know my
Wow.
grandfather was doing something. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so from that perspective, just even if I start with my grandfather was a very stern gentleman on the outside,
Mm-hmm.
but very much a gentleman on the inside. Um,
Wow.
I remember the first summer I think I spent with my grandparents, and of course I'm talking about my father's parents.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Spent with my felt spent with my grandparents, and coming from New York, and they lived in South Carolina, and so the first thing was cereal. We eat cereal out of a box with milk, right? And so I'm with my grandparents, and my grandmother and my grandfather, oh my God, are watching Ric Flair and wrestling.
Okay.
Was it WW or Worldwide Wrestling, whatever it
Oh,
is?
okay.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
WWW, yeah, Worldwide Wrestling. And you couldn't talk to my grandmother when she was watching wrestling. Uh,
Really?
oh
Okay.
no, absolutely not. There was no talking.
Was it real for her? Was it real? She said
It
it was
was
real.
it was absolutely real for her. And my grandmother was short in stature,
Okay.
but very tall in character.
And
And
then she had this extremely tall husband.
yes, and she had an extremely tall husband.
But they said very, very tall men like petite women.
Yes, and you could not tell my grandmother that that was not real. She would fight you with her little legs would be, kicking away at you and stuff. But in any event, that first summer, it was late, and like I said, it wasn't that late. It's 7 o'clock, but in the country, you're in the house early. The doors are locked, dinner has been served, and you've bathed, and you're in the house for the night. So I say to my grandmother that I'm hungry, even after we had had dinner. And so she says, "What do you want?" And I said, "Cereal." So my grandmother's like, "Cereal?"
Now, how old are you at this point?
I'm probably about 9, 8 or 9.
Okay.
And so my grandma says, well, when the commercial come on, because she's like, shh, because like I said, wrestling is on.
That's what.
No, there was 2 times you could not talk. Well, 3 times you could not talk. When it was thundering and lightning, because God was speaking, right? You could not speak. In church, you did not speak. And when wrestling was on, you did not speak.
That's funny.
And so
Oh,
my grandmother, the commercial comes on, my grandmother goes in the kitchen, and she is in there bumping around, and then I'm like, yes, I'm getting cereal. And my grandma comes back with a bowl of cold white rice with milk poured over it and sugar. And and I and I look at the bowl, and I look at my grandma, and I'm looking at my cousins, and I'm like, what is this? And my grandmother's like, this is cereal. Not the type of cereal I eat. My cereal come in a box, and it has pictures on it. you know. So my grandmother is like, okay, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know. I guess I didn't eat anything that night. But
mhm.
my grandfather, as stern as he was, because I had also mentioned when I arrived at my grandparents' house that I like steak and I wanted a steak. And my grandfather's exact words were, "You ain't getting no goddamn steak in here. You better pull your goddamn steak teeth out, because you will not be eating steak in this house." Well, let me just say, and this is you gotta put it in your mind. My grandparents lived in the low country, and the store was more in we're talking probably 30 miles away to
Okay.
go to the store.
Hmm.
So my grandparents go to the store, and
Uh,
I'm like, okay, I'm not getting no steak, no steak. I got no cereal. I got nothing. My grandparents come back from the store with all these grocery bags. There is what in those bags? First of all, there's cereal.
uh-huh.
But for this girl to eat cereal out the box,
Mhm.
and my grandfather takes out this beautiful T-bone steak, tosses it on the table, and
Oh.
says to my girl, Bella, cook this goddamn steak for this gal. Did I not get my steak? But my grandfather, he would call me Lisi. My family name is Nisi, but he would say it like he was calling me Lisi. And
Mhm.
he would always tell me, you can't go here, you can't go there, you're not old enough to go out. So these were my summers with my grandfather. But my grandfather showed me so much love. Loved my grandfather. He was just a gentle giant, always there, always with a kind word, with an encouraging word. And so I love my grandfather for that. And what I didn't get
Mhm.
and from my own dad,
Let's
I
see, Diana.
still
Be safe.
I could still go back and remember the love that I received from my grandfather. And when I think about my grandfather and I think about my grandmother, I still have the warm and fuzzies. Like,
Oh.
I wish there was, like, now that my children are older, that I could go, and share with them and be with them. But of course not,
Yeah.
but
I
you
know.
know,
Let me tell you, I met my grandparents when I was 11, my biological grandparents.
uh-huh.
And I spent the summer, my mother's parents.
Yes.
And my grandfather was the greatest. They grew tobacco.
Oh, awesome.
And I learned to string tobacco
Oh,
that summer.
wow. Yeah.
And I learned to drive. You know,
Yes.
oh my God, it was just wonderful. I never forget. They were in North Carolina, and they live in this small town. As they say, it's Fayetteville. They really live in Red Springs.
Okay.
And I was walking through the town, and I think I was with my grandmother, but we had split up.
Uh-huh.
And this lady came up to me and she said, "Are you a Johnson?" And I said,
Ah,
"Yes, I'm a Johnson," because she
yes.
could see my face. I was a Johnson.
Yes.
And I never forget. Like, it was just, and then hear stories about my mother, my grandfather's like, because he taught me how to string the tobacco.
Yes.
And he said, "You string tobacco just like your mother used to string tobacco."
Ah.
It was really, really, really nice. I really, because I was supposed to leave there and go on to Savannah, but we ended up
Mhm.
staying there for the whole summer. And it was an
Wow.
experience. I mean, I
Yes.
was like, it was just to be in the presence of this man. Or
Yes.
and my grandmother. My grandmother's a little bit more, like, she was a little more standoffish,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just nice. And my uncle meeting him, he was a year younger than me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So my mother and my grandmother like having babies together.
Mm-hmm.
But so he was a year younger than me, and he was just off the cuff, and he was so spoiled by his parents, because he's the youngest of 9 kids.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, my Uncle June. And so it was an experience, but I really, really enjoyed that summer and enjoyed, being in the bar, just me and my grandfather and stringing tobacco and all
Yes.
this kind of stuff and just talking.
Yes.
It was a beautiful, beautiful experience.
Right.
It
It's
really
one of
was.
it is I always say the summers that I spent in Charleston, South Carolina as a child, are my probably my most fondest memories of
Hmm.
childhood.
Hmm.
Um, I just enjoyed it so much. I mean, being an only child, I would go to South Carolina from New York, and of course, neither of my grandparents had air conditioning. One of my grandparents did not, my father's parents did not initially have running water
Hmm.
inside the home. So we would, go to the well, pump water from the well, bring that water in, and that's how you wash dishes, you did clothes, you did all
Hmm.
things. Um, but I have to say that I appreciate every moment,
Hmm.
um, because growing up in New York and just growing up, I don't we garnered survival skills, but
Hmm.
the type of survival skills that I learned being with my grandparents every summer, and I had both grandparents because, or I should say all four grandparents,
Yeah,
because
for
my
sets,
mother,
right?
yeah, my mother and my father are from the same place, just opposite ends of the island in South Carolina. So I had the very great pleasure of spending time with both of my grand sets of grandparents. And my mother's mother was, she was an awesome cook, but she was stern. She didn't play no games. She
My
stood.
grandmother was like that. She was stern. My
She,
biological grandmother, she was stern too.
she was
Well,
like
both my grandmothers.
she, she stood probably 4 feet 9, and her little glasses on her face, and she was very, you had to say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Um, but my grandmother, my mother's mother, had 10 children,
Mhm,
and as you just said, my uncle was the youngest. There were
mhm,
9 girls and 1 boy, and he was the youngest. um and so then, of course, with all, with the so many females,
mhm,
then when the children started having children, there were mainly females.
mhm,
So
mhm,
I spent the summers with at my grandparents' house, my father's grandparents' house, where it was only my cousin who lived there. We were
mhm.
both only children, so that was cool, even though her and I would fight all the time. And then, but we loved each other, but we would just fight. She was 2 years
Right,
older,
right, right.
and I always had to push my luck, and she'd be like, "Look, little girl, sit down."
Mhm.
And so, but at my mother's parents' house would be all of my other cousins. So
Right, right, right.
imagine as an only child going from, I'm an only child. I have my own room. I have the bathroom to myself. I eat what I want to eat when I want to eat, go when I want to. And now I'm here with like 12 to 14 cousins at maybe any given time.
That's how it was
Right?
for me.
You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah, I
and
know exactly
and
how it was.
and my grandfather, both my grandfather had fields where they grew their own vegetables, and
Vegetables.
and so, or they went fishing and they come back from fishing, or they went hunting and they come back from hunting, and you would see the game that they caught, or the fish
Uh-huh,
that they
uh-huh.
caught, and then that you would eat that.
That's
Like
what you
that
ate.
was
That's right.
you ate. That's
Hmm.
what you ate.
That's
My
what you ate.
grandmother was a big, go and catch shrimp and crabs and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Remember going one year with my grandmother, and I had a tube top, the little stretchy tube tops that we
Oh,
used to wear.
well.
And, and my grandmother needed to catch some. She said, "Take that off."
She said, "What you covered up
She
anyway
said,
for?" What
she
you
said, "You." She said, "You don't got nothing to worry about. Take that off. Let me have that because I need it." I will never forget that. And so just having those experience with, with my grandparents, but my grandfathers made such an impact in my life, and to the point that when my children were old enough, I would send them away because my mom would go back to South Carolina like I did every summer, and she would take my children. And like
Mhm,
Steph, you said, you learn how to ride, you learn how to drive. My son learned how to ride a bike in South Carolina
mhm.
after falling off Lord knows how many times in that dirt road. I learned how to catch tadpoles and make dirt pies and play Red Rover, send Iris right over.
I mean, it's nothing like it. It's
It's
an
nothing like
experience.
it.
Let
It
me
is
tell you,
nothing like it.
my mother, she would drive me. I would go to Savannah. I
Right,
started going to Savannah when I was like one. When I
right,
was two, she put me on a
right.
plane by myself,
Oh, okay. Yeah,
by
I
myself, and
started
I flew
flying
to
to
Savannah.
Tallahassee. Yeah, I
Yeah,
flew to
my aunt
Tallahassee
met
by
me in
myself.
Atlanta. Oh, okay, but and so it was like that's why Savannah's such a big, like, for
Yeah,
me,
no,
especially
you
for
go there
me.
all the time.
Oh my God! But Savannah's like been my peace because with
Right,
me being in this situation of being blessed with two mothers, but it was always a lot of tension.
right,
So when I would go to Savannah, like with none of the mothers, I'm just one of the cousins,
right,
and I just blended in with everybody else. It was
right,
no one. It was because somebody had this arm, the other one had this arm.
right,
It was always a pull, between
right,
my two mothers with me. So
right.
that's why it's such a special place for me. I could just go and just relax, and it's still that place for me,
And that's
still
how
to
I
this
feel.
day.
That's how I feel about South Carolina. I love South Carolina. I mean, if you've never been, South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina is a beautiful,
And
beautiful,
so
like
how close it is to Savannah. I've never
I
been.
was gonna, and look, and I was gonna say, very much like Savannah. The two are like, you could, if you closed your eyes, you wouldn't sometimes know the difference, right?
Exactly. I
But
heard.
the level of tranquility there. But for me, it's also like I said, I now have the land that my father grew up on, that my father was born and raised on, and
Mhm.
that is my land, and I would never, like I know people, those of us who are younger, we'll say stuff like, well, I'm gonna sell that thing, I could sell it to some developer. Um,
Mm,
just a pin here, I would never sell that one,
mm,
because I can only imagine, my grandparents bought that land, I believe, back in 1941, right?
mm.
African
Wow.
Americans buying this land, and how appropriate, now that I'm thinking about this, like tomorrow is Juneteenth, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
or we're
No, no,
celebrating
Saturday, right?
Saturday, right? That we're celebrating Juneteenth this weekend coming up,
Mm-hmm.
and that my grandparents' blood, sweat, and tears,
Hmm. That's right.
to keep this land, and my grandfather worked that land, and my grandfather profited off that land, and he fed people, he fed neighbors, he fed family, but that is how he fed his family. And I just,
Hmm.
that to me is so, it is so deep, it is
Hmm.
beyond what, even sometimes when I'm thinking I'm doing my thing, I'm in, and then I think back to my grandfather, I think back to my grandfathers, working in those, under the conditions that they worked, but
Hmm.
they were
Exactly.
they were not looking for handouts. They were not waiting for somebody to do it for them. They went and did what they had to do to take care of their families. And I could only imagine a man who had 11 children. No, you
Hmm.
had 10 children. You had, and my grandfather, my mother's father, 10 girls? Good
Mm.
Lord, 10
I know.
girls.
Wow. Wow. He kept trying for that boy, so he realized it was
Right.
never gonna happen.
But my mother's father, again, great. My mother, she always credits my grandfather with the fact, she says that my grandfather shopped for them. He is the one who bought all of their clothing and all of their shoes. And what's so funny is that she was like, you, at that time, they didn't get to go to the city with him when he shopped. So he would measure their feet with a piece of string
Mm.
to determine what size shoes they needed, and he dressed them all, um that's why I
That's nice.
said, when you listen to history, and it's important that you know your history, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
um Growing up with your grandparents and having grandparents in your life, which is why, it was important for myself and my ex-husband to have our children have their grandparents in their lives, because
Hmm.
we knew the impact it had. um,
Hmm.
for many people who don't grow up with their quote unquote father, right, with their knowing or having their father around, it is the grandfather who saves them.
Oh, now that's a hmm.
Man, I is the grandfather who, teaches them how to tie, how to
Hmm.
shave, how to stand up and be a man, how to be respectful of a woman, how to open a door, how to learn how to cook for yourself. So because you got to feed yourself, right?
No, sure, because I know, but about my father that raised me, he had his issues, but when my brother, he had, a lot of issues, my oldest
Mhm.
brother, but, and he was just out of the picture. But my nieces were over every summer, over the
Right.
holidays. He made sure they had their school clothes.
Yes.
He went ate for his grandchildren. He
Yes.
really did.
Yes.
I'm working with my niece now. Just I'm helping her buy a house, and she was talking like, "Oh, I love my grandfather, all that he did for me."
Yes.
She remembers that. You know what I
Yes.
mean? My niece,
Yes.
she's only like 4 years younger than me, but
Yes.
she remembers how my father like did all these things for her and
Yes.
took care of her. Even though her parents, my brother, that's my second oldest brother, they're still
Yes.
married. They've been married
Right.
like forever. But my oldest brother, he just, so when he was out of the picture and his ex-wife, she needed the help. She was a single mom with two
Yes.
kids.
Yes.
And my father, he went all eight for them. Really did
Yes.
a lot for them and
Yes.
made a difference in their life. You know what I
Yes.
mean? So it's nice when you're able to like step in there and do
Yes.
that. But
Yes.
it's even like for the young fathers. Like I have a nephew, he's a single dad
Mm-hmm.
and he has, both his children
Yes.
and he has had his daughter. He has been a single dad to her since the day she came out of her mother's womb.
Wow. Yeah.
And yeah, and he brought her home, and the mother had some of her own issues, and he takes care of his kids.
Yes.
And he is a great dad to his children, and
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And he's doing a good job. He's doing
Yeah.
the best he can. And then my other nephew, he had a son when he was like 17, and my sister's like, you're gonna have to take care of him. And so of course, when he was first born, he lived with his mother and her family.
Hmm.
They were
Yes.
both 17. But when he got to be about 7, he came to live with his dad.
Yes.
And his dad at that time really didn't have a place for him. But so he stayed with my sisters, but he had to come over there. He had to do his homework with him. He had to do everything
Yes.
until he was able to get them a place together, because he had a place but just enough for him. And
Yes.
got a place for them together, and just takes care of him. And I mean, I look how he takes care of his son. Probably he has spoiled him to his extent, because he's still, yeah, because he had become a father young too. So he
Yeah.
takes care of him. And then my nephew didn't have any more children until he got married.
Yes.
So, and I think he got married when Elijah was probably like 15,
Yeah.
16, something like that.
Right.
So he's like a second father to those children,
Right.
you know. And
Right.
so even when his father had his children with his wife, who takes care of the newborn babies, he did
Yes.
help out his dad and his stepmother, take care of the kids.
Yes.
And then him and his father, they ended up having a baby together. So he have all the babies,
Yeah.
And but it's important. And I tell you, my sister never married his dad, but his dad takes care of him. He's there for him. So he has a whole generation, his grandfather, his father, and
Yes.
then him becoming a father, young father,
Yes.
and then his son becoming a young father. And they really there for each other.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing.
It is.
It really is. So, there are a lot of good fathers out there. I
There
know
are.
one of my girlfriends, I went to college with her. And I never forget when she said, she was in a situation, and she decided to terminate her pregnancy. And she said, only person that would go with me and take care of me was my father.
Mm.
My father took care of me.
Yes.
And her mother died. Her mother died when she was like 12.
Yes.
And her youngest sister was 9. And he had 4 girls.
Hmm.
And he did not marry again. He took care of his daughters.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
what he did. He
There
was a phenomenal man.
there are many
They,
phenomenal
they, they are.
fathers out
Yes,
here,
yes,
and
they are.
even when they make even when a person, when a father makes a mistake, but guess what, it has to be forgivable. You know why? Because as mothers we make mistakes too, and
Absolutely.
we definitely expect that our mistakes will be forgivable. So why
Hmm.
wouldn't a father be given the same opportunity?
Hmm.
I think is it not I think I know, just like anything, there is no manual, right?
It isn't.
And even if there is, it doesn't fit everybody's life. So
Hmm.
there's no manual on parenting.
No, it isn't.
There's no manual on what does a father do, because
Hmm.
a lot of times we say, oh, men can just walk away, and sometimes men walk away because they feel I am of no I am of they
Yes.
believe
Mhm.
they're of no help here. Like
Exactly.
they
Hmm.
feel like I can't do this. I'm young. I don't
Hmm.
have a job. I don't have money.
Hmm. Hmm.
I can't provide. I don't have a place for us to stay.
Hmm.
I haven't even finished my own education. I'm not even grown up. I have no idea what I'm doing. Um so sometimes men leave, not because that may be what they really want to do, they just don't know what to do or how to do,
Hmm.
and there's not someone there to give them an example of how they fall forward and be able to succeed and raise their children and be a part of their children's lives. um and even in for me, fathers are important.
They are.
Even in my divorce from my
Hmm.
husband, my one concern was always our children.
Hmm. Me also,
I
definitely.
would not I could, and not that I'm not going to say I didn't care about what happened between him and I, because what happens between him and I affects what happens between him, I, and our children.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, I always was diligent. I mean, I was diligent about my children having a relationship with their father. And
Absolutely.
and to me, I when you don't allow your children to have a relationship with their father, especially if their father wants to have a
Exactly.
relationship,
Exactly.
and if their father is there knocking on that door or showing up or
Hmm.
calling and saying, I want to see my kids, and
Hmm.
you say no, you are
Shame
doing
on
your children an injustice. You
That's
are
right.
doing
Shame on you. That's right. I
yes,
agree
shame on
100% with
you.
you on that one.
And as I always say, now if it's a case where the father is abusive, the
Yeah,
father
of
is
course. It's something different.
of a danger or a threat to your children's well-being, that is
Hmm.
totally different. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when we as adults find ourselves in situations and then we punish our children by saying
Exactly.
you're not going to see your child, or we're not well, we
Hmm.
think we're not punishing the child, we think we're punishing the father
But you're
by
really punishing your child too.
you're not
Yep.
going to see your father, but you're punishing the child too.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
I was engaged in a really deep conversation with my really close friends this weekend, and we had an amazing conversation about fathers, and
Hmm.
everybody's story was different,
Hmm.
right? But one of those stories was from one of my friends who basically said, and for all the years of knowing and not really knowing the story of what happened, but
Hmm.
for her, it was that one day she was seeing her father every day,
Hmm.
and then one day he was just gone.
Hmm.
And no one
Wow.
ever said why he was gone or where he had gone.
Really?
you know and so listening to that, and like I said, we all had different stories about our
Hmm.
relationships with our fathers.
Hmm.
And but what I realized sitting there talking is that, as I stated in the beginning, your relationship with your father is so impactful on
It
your
is.
life.
It really is.
It is just like having a relationship with your mother. It's
It's true.
impactful upon your life.
It is. You're
and I
right
think
about that.
and I think sometimes we need to give men a little bit more grace, even though I know
Yeah.
that sounds crazy, because it wasn't for me until I divorced my husband the second time that I and then I realized that there were places that I could have and I should have given my husband more grace,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
and the fact that it was their father, I did find that grace, because like I said, the one thing I would never do was separate my children from their father.
I know that's right.
I
I
will
know that's
never
right.
I will never come between them. I will never
Hmm.
separate them, nor would I ever paint an awful picture of their father to them,
Hmm.
because I feel like as adults, right?
Hmm.
We choose each other as adults.
Hmm. Hmm.
Children do not choose their parents.
No, they don't.
And so it's not
Nope.
fair of us to then turn around and say to children, you just like your father, or your father's
Exactly.
no good, or that's
Mhm.
so wrong.
That's horrible.
You are
That
doing
is
so much
horrible.
damage. You are
You're doing a
doing
lot of damage.
so
Yes, you
much
are.
damage.
That's the
Because
worst.
guess what? Several things could happen with your children and their father.
Hmm.
If their father is has issues, and maybe right now in their life as a father he's not doing the greatest of a job, maybe he has his own demons and his own issues that he needs to work on and correct. Okay, your children are children, so they may not understand or even be able to conceptualize what that even means, right?
Exactly.
Okay, and so when you then paint this picture of a negative person to your children, now you've planted this seed that daddy is not a good person.
Exactly.
Now what happens as they grow up, and if
Hmm.
you allow it to flourish the way it's supposed to, they will see the things about their father, whatever character flaws their father has.
Exactly.
But guess what? They could also maybe not see, because
Hmm.
people can mature. People can
Exactly.
change. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe the things that they had issues with when you were married or you were together and you had these children together, maybe by the time your children get to the point where they understand,
Mm-hmm.
maybe those may not be issues anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That is the one
That's
thing
true.
I am so grateful of, that for my children,
Mm-hmm.
they see the good character of their father.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
know that their father loves them. They
Mm-hmm.
know that he would go to the ends of the earth, back, and maybe even run through hell for them.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
know that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it is important to me, like I always said, my mother always taught me, even though I had issues with my dad too, but my mom always taught me, he's your father and you must respect him,
Mm-hmm. That's
right?
right. That's true.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
now, if he did something that was unbecoming of what a father should have done to me, trust
Mm,
me,
that's different.
my mother stepped in,
Mm-hmm.
and she would be like, now that's
Is that
unacceptable.
acceptable?
That should not have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But she always made sure that I was clear about respecting my father.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
true.
so I make sure that my children respect their father,
Mm-hmm.
because there are times in all of our lives that we have things that we could be mad at our fathers for. But you also got to
Absolutely. So
remember,
much.
there is so much in your life to be grateful
Thankful
for
for. It's true. That's
your
right.
father,
That's
right?
true. You're right. You're right.
And
Absolutely
so
correct about that.
I want to say shout out to Ron Owens, because you are an amazing father. You love our children, you take care of our children, you're there for our children, you've always been there for our children. And until your eyes close, our children know that you are always there for them. And so I just want to say thank you, Ron Owens, for helping me bring two beautiful children into this world, but
Oh.
also that we share three beautiful children together. And I just want to say thank you and happy Father's Day to you. I just really want to say that. Thank you.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, because fathers don't get their flowers, you know.
Yeah, I do. I do. I think, my ex-husband for my babies and the things that he does for them. I do. And I tell him, even always, I was always like, I appreciate you. I appreciate,
Yeah,
I appreciate, us making these babies together. I
right.
like these two. I like these two human beings that we created. I like them.
Absolutely.
That they were
Yes,
mine. I like their
yes,
personalities. I think they're just cool
yes.
people, and the two of us could have been the only two people that we could have created this lot. You know what I mean? We
Absolutely.
could have created
Absolutely.
something else, but how they are, we created them. It's funny. He was over here on Monday, and I was saying, like, now my son is dating. I'm like, oh my god, he reminds me of his father. He's like,
Uh-huh.
wow, what is he like? And I'm saying this, and he's like, what do you mean? What did he do? What did he do? And I was just telling him, I'm like, it's these things that I see with his girl. I'm like, oh my God, you remind me so much of your father, and not in a negative way,
Right.
but just in his way. And he's like, what?
Yes.
I'm like, yes. So I do. I think that's important. I mean, I think that we're in a different stage than you are, with Ron. So it's like, I give a lot of all of that, but he's not. I don't know. He's not ready to be receptive of it. It's odd, but I think that he's still just trying to figure it all out. Because I'm like really like humble about it.
Right.
Like spend time with your kids. That's your kid. You know what I mean? Do stuff. That's important.
Yes.
So and just trying to say like don't just because we're not here, don't forget about them in those other ways. When you come
Right.
to town, make sure you take time out for your children.
Yes.
Not just drop by and see them, but go do something.
Yes.
That's important because they people we all what we really always know is you could tell your children whatever you want to tell them. They're watching you. They're learning
Oh,
from your
yes, they are.
actions.
Yes,
They
they
are
are.
learning from your actions. So your
Absolutely.
actions are everything. You say, "Oh, you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do it." Your actions are everything,
Absolutely.
and that's very, very important because
Absolutely.
you pick up traits and different things that you don't even realize. Where did that come from? And then sometimes you remember, oh my God, like my mother used to do that. Or I saw my father, it's just something that you picked up that
Yes.
you didn't realize that you picked it
Yes.
up. It's just by
Yes.
you watching, you
Yes.
know, and not anything they told you or anything like that. And it's like, wow, like just like today is my mother's birthday. If she would have lived, she would have been 99 today.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yes, 99 years old. So I'm
Wow.
just feeling a little kind of ways. I miss my
Yeah.
mom, you
Yeah.
know. I
Absolutely.
really wish, when I went through this whole divorce, I needed her.
Yes.
And but I know she's, watching over me. But
Absolutely.
yeah, but you have to, and because I think men are great. I have six brothers. And
Mm.
like one of my younger brothers, I have three older brothers and three younger brothers. And one of my second youngest brother, he is a phenomenal, phenomenal man. And
Wow.
I tell him this all the time. I mean, he has definitely made his mistakes, but he owns them. And that's what's most important.
Right.
When he was married to his first wife, he stepped out, and he his wife was pregnant at the time, and he stepped out, and with somebody he got them pregnant also.
Mm.
And his wife was like, you know, like she was upset, but she was like, as long as you never see that child again, we don't have any problem. He said, well, that's not going to happen because
Right.
that's my child.
Like I made a mistake. I'm not about to make two mistakes. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's
And,
gonna be a problem.
and that
Mm-hmm.
was the reason that they divorced.
Mm.
So he has two kids, and it's so funny that the two of them are so close.
Mm. That's
You
beautiful.
know, yeah, with his wife he had a son, and then with the lady he had a daughter, and like they're roommates because they're the same age. They're roommates and everything like that. But he went on, and then he got married again. This is my brother, and he didn't have any children in that union.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it just, whatever. It didn't last very long. And then he remarried again. So it's like his third wife. Now he's been married for like probably almost 25 years.
Okay.
But
Mm.
he, within this relationship, I think it was his third marriage, but he met a lady and she had a daughter and he loved the daughter, but things didn't work out between them. And then they lost touch. Probably about 5 or 6 years ago, the daughter found somebody. He found the daughter, you know, and the daughter's like, "You said you were always going to adopt me," and he adopted her at 18.
Oh my now. Oh my God. That's beautiful. Are you
Yes, he adopted
serious?
her. He
Oh my
adopted
God.
her.
That's fabulous.
Yep,
I
yep, and
love that. Now, see,
yeah,
that's what I'm talking about.
yeah,
There,
yeah. So
there are a
yep,
lot of good brothers out here. I'm
yeah,
telling
yeah.
you, there
So
are.
I mean, and so I asked
You
Kelly.
know,
Kelly's my sister-in-law. So I said, you adopted her too? He said, no, she just, Byron just adopted her. And and he is just and but he has it on point. I'm like, you like, because he's a detective, but he was sergeant in the army, so he's all this, but he has like
I
he
love
can put all
that.
the three women on the phone. He got it all handled. He got
Shout
everybody
out to
like in
your
check.
brother for being
you
a
know
phenomenal father. Amen.
yeah, like my brother,
I
he
love
just
it.
does. He is really and has all his kids together. And let me tell
I
you,
love that.
Kelly and his wife is phenomenal too. She takes good care of all of those children. You know what I mean? She had three. They had three together, three boys, and she's just right there in there with him. You know,
Nice.
when his daughter that he had with the lady, when something wasn't right with her, and my brother felt that she wasn't in a good situation with live with the mom and her brother, and my brother went up there and got his daughter.
Very good.
So she's been living with my brother since she was like 9.
I love that.
And
That
he went and got his son too. His son, like, from his ex-wife, he had to live with him too. I mean, so he takes care of his children. He do not play that.
yes.
They're gonna have my last name. They're gonna know who their father is.
Yes. And
My
see,
brother.
that's what I mean. There are men out here who are fathers.
Yes, they
They
are.
are fathers, they are daddies,
Hmm.
they they stay home with the kids. they don't babysit, because you can't babysit your own children.
Hello.
They are your
I tell my
children.
cousin that. I'm
You are not,
babysitting. You
you
ain't
are
babysitting
not
your own kids.
babysitting. You cannot babysit your
Those your
own
kids.
children. So please stop saying that. Babysitters get paid. You are not getting
Exactly.
paid. Okay, these are your kids. This is where
Hmm.
they came to spend the night for a long time ago, and they're gonna be spending the night for a very long time. So there is no
Exactly.
babysitting going
Exactly.
on. And so, but it is, I love that when you hear, that there are men out here who are fighting to see their children, to spend time with their children, to have the opportunity to rear their children, to teach their children, to love on their
Hmm.
children. And I love that. I mean, I know you said you didn't see it, Steph, but Oprah and Sterling Brown did an excellent job on
Sterling K. Brown, I love him.
Sterling K. Brown on Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday night, on
Mhm.
the special that Oprah did, was honoring our kings. And I'm telling you,
Mhm.
it was absolutely beautiful. Sterling K. Brown made me cry because he just kept crying.
I know that he cried.
He is a crier, and throughout that whole entire thing he was crying, but there was reason to cry because these stories were so infectious. I mean, in such a positive way, watching these men do their things, a young father who, he, like he said, he didn't he said becoming a father was so isolating, you know that
Hmm.
made me think, because I don't think we ever think that about a
Hmm.
father, right?
Oh,
we
I
think
do.
it,
Yeah.
we think that as a mother, that becoming a mother can become isolating, especially, I always say, if you're an older mother, where all your friends have already had children and
Hmm.
you're just now getting started, and their kids are graduated from high school or college, and you're just
Exactly.
like, we're,
Like us,
right,
like me.
we're going to first grade, and they're like, have fun with that.
Uh-huh.
but
Exactly.
there was a father who, he didn't he well, he had kids, but he wasn't with his kids. And then he met a woman who had a daughter, and then he went and got his kids and became involved in his kids' life. So he was a stepfather, but he was raising 5 kids. And he says there was a point in his life where he realized that he needed to go get his kids. And I was like, see, that's what I'm talking
Hmm.
about. When you have those epiphanies in life, and to me, yes, sometimes, as one would say, it's too late, but you got to at least try.
Hmm.
You have
I
to at
agree with
least
you.
try. There was another father. He was a military father. He was a military man. Then he retired came out of the military, became a fireman, and his young son, who was 21 years old, joined the Marines and lost his life as a Marine. And I don't want to tell all the stories, but it is definitely worth a watch. It was so deeply moving and so enlightening. And so that was what kind of spurred me to say I wanted to make sure that we recognize fathers, because many times, like I said, fathers just don't get their flowers. They don't get the perks. They don't
They
get the
don't. They
they don't get
don't.
the pat on the back. And I mean, it's even a running joke. Like, you listen to comedians talk about, Mother's Day. It's like Christmas and Mother's Day, right? Father's Day is like, he's like, there's like 21 other holidays that come that people consider celebrating before they consider celebrating Father's Day. And
It's like Father's Day has always been so big for me. I go to Father's Day cookouts. I do big when I was married.
yeah,
Always we did brunches. I would take my other girlfriend's on her husband. We would all go to brunch. We would do something. I always Father's Day was so big to me. I know when I was in Savannah and my mom was dying,
mm-hmm,
and and she died on the 21st of June, and right after her birthday. And the kids were here and they were with their dad. I knew I wasn't going to be here for Father's Day.
mm-hmm,
And mind you, we were basically already separated. We were still in
mm-hmm,
the same house.
right,
But I got all his Father's Day gifts and everything. I hid them in my closet. I
mm-hmm,
showed my daughter where they were. I
mm-hmm.
said, these are all your Father's Day gifts. Make sure you give daddy. Y'all can go out, because I think that is so important. Now, in my household, Father's Day is the big thing. Mother's Day is it's Mother's Day? Really? I didn't know it's Mother's Day. I oh, really? I gotta get you
Oh,
something. I get
oh,
that.
okay. I'm sorry.
But
Let me wait. Hold on. Let me run out and get you some flowers. Is that how that works? Oh,
I get that on Mother's Day. I get that on my birthday too. But that
oh.
birthday, because it's like they watch you. I never forget because we did the coupling thing. So we lived in the house together for 5 years. He lived on one side of the house. I lived on the other side of the house. The kids were in the middle. And right before we finally got our divorce, and it was his birthday, I come with the cake and everything. I'm like, kids, come on, let's go. We're going to sing happy birthday to your father. Go to his room, knock on the door. And, it's like, so I brought all that. And they saw all that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, they see what you should do. And I always made a big deal of it. Because
Yeah.
I think that's very, very important. I wanted something, and it wasn't for anything. But I wanted, I like my first. I wanted a Lynx. I know if you guys saw this Lynx. It was like a stroller coat, a Lynx.
Hmm.
And I said, I want this Lynx. And he was like, okay, here, go get the Lynx. And I did remember that we were in Burberry that day. He loved his Burberry raincoat. So I didn't get the Lynx. I got another coat that I liked also. And then took the rest of the money and bought him the Burberry raincoat
Hmm.
because Father's Day was coming.
Yes.
you know. And he's like, why you? I said, because I want you. I saw you really, really love this coat, you
Yes.
know, and the things like that. So I always made, and then your kids watch you,
Yes.
and that's
Absolutely.
how they learn. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So they do a lot of doting on him. A lot of times.
Awesome.
Well, and I'm like, now, well, after having you know acute respiratory failure twice, I can tell you now those things don't affect me. Last year I was feeling like, well, y'all gotta give me something now too. And my son has to be equal, like yes. Now it's like, yeah, I'm gonna get it for myself. It's okay. I
Right.
can't worry about it. Mother's Day came around. I mean, they got me some stuff, but it wasn't like I would feel ways because I would feel like, oh, you go all out. You need to do that for me too. But then you realize you're here. You're like with them every
Yes.
day. So it's
Right.
different.
And it's right. And there is a difference. Yes.
And not to mention,
Like
I taught them differently because even when we were married, Mother's Day wasn't the same for me, even when we were married.
mm,
So they didn't see that. You know
right.
what I mean? So I would like, but now it's like, it's okay, do what you gotta do. He's here, like, go spend some time with your kids, go do this.
Right.
So it's important. I never thought that fathers, like, I think that's so hard. I know women that would say, oh, I'm not giving them the baby's last name. That's so stupid.
Yeah.
That's like,
I
why
don't
would
I
you
don't
not
I
do
don't
that?
understand it, but it is like I
I
mean
don't. And
and
it's
it's
people, and it's like I'm trying to get back at them and all this kind of stuff. I have a friend now, and his sister, like, she has two kids, and they all have her name. She when the father's in one, she like, I'm like, that's
well
horrible.
in some I don't want to get into that because I think that would bring that's taking a we'll
Right,
discuss this another day. But
right.
I it's important though, like I said, it's just important for children to, if you know where a child's father is, allow them please to have
Please allow them.
allow
And
them to have
yes,
that moment
it's
with their
important.
father to at least see that there if there the potential is there for them to have a relationship.
Mhm.
And you have to go to that length. You can't say they don't want them and I'm not going to let them be hurt,
No,
because honestly I think they're hurt more when they believe in their minds that their father just never wanted them.
exactly,
And
exactly.
that may not even be the case, but
That's right.
when children think that their parent, their father never wanted them, then it's just an empty feeling. And so give them the opportunity to, make amends, to build the relationship, to build
That's
rapport with
right.
the children if they're still walking, talking, and breathing, and they
That's
want
right. It's
to be a part
important.
of their children's lives. It's just important.
And
Um,
I tell the women too. I mean, however, you decide that you're sharing your body or whatever. If a child comes from that union, please
Mm.
know, like, get the man's name, get his social security number.
Right,
That
know
is
who he is.
important. That
Yeah,
is important. Don't
it
just be
is.
like, oh, or don't just make it like he it was nothing. You needed that
Yeah,
sperm to crack that egg to make that
right,
baby.
right.
It,
You
it's
that
nothing good
sperm,
about that.
that sperm not only cracked it, it scrambled it and made an omelet.
Exactly. Exactly. It made it what it was. But and you have to, like, like I have my other brother. He's my older brother, but he's the third oldest. And he is a really good guy because I never forget he met his first wife and she had a 5-month-old baby.
Mm,
And things, I guess, didn't work with her and the father. I mean, he wasn't around. My brother hopped in there and took care of that baby like it was his own.
yeah.
Married her, took care of the baby. Unfortunately, like, the marriage didn't work out, and they had two more children. And then, he got remarried to another woman. She had three children, three different baby fathers. And he was like, well, everybody deserves a chance. And they ended up having a set of twins together, but hopped in there again, to take care of somebody else's children. And, and did the best that he could, but didn't shy away from that. And he was like, no, I'm here, and it was good for him. And he did the best he could. Like, sometimes the children, like, if it didn't work, like with his first wife or her son, that's the only father you knew. But when it didn't work, he was like, he didn't want to really deal with my brother, which I feel bad for my brother because you raised him, you know, and for him not to want to deal with you, it's not a good thing, but he felt, and now, and not to mention his mother has passed since then.
Mm,
And it's like, all you had was your father, you know
mm.
and my brother took care of that boy. Yeah, and they had him for a minute before, she had two children for my brother. So, and it's nice. So, also when, when men come in and they're willing to, be a father to your children, that's a beautiful thing, and love them as if they were their own. And
Yes.
you should not, I think that, sometimes you have to, it's a fine line. Don't get me wrong. But if you know you have a child and you're marrying a man, like my cousin, he married a young lady and she already had a child, and he had a child, and they both had children when they were young. But he wanted to be a father to her child, and she was not, like, and one day we were over, one day she was trying to be the father to the child, but she just never wanted that to happen. And that's sad. But he's still, I mean, we're talking about now, they've been married over 30 years. He still fathers her. I mean, she's a grown woman now,
Wow.
but it could have been so much more if the mother would allow it. I mean, they had two children of their own, but you have to, if they want to do that, and they're doing it from the good of their heart, the right way. Is nothing going on in that picture. You need to let that happen.
Hmm.
That's important, because sometimes us as women, we get in the way of those things.
Yes. But sometimes I think, that could be fair. That could be, just in case this doesn't work out, I'm trying to protect my child. But I
But
think that
mind you, you've added more children to the crew.
yeah, I get
So
that.
yeah, anything can happen to anything. I mean, I would say that, but I know, because I would feel the same way. But at the same time, like, they have a father in their life. So when I do get married, then that's not going to be their father. He'll be their friend, because my kids have their father.
Right.
But when you,
And I
like,
was gonna say sometimes the yeah, if there's a father, you don't try to replace the father,
no, you
especially if
don't
the
do that.
father is there. You don't do that. But I think it's also important, you know, when I was single and I was raising my kids, I used to say I'm not single, because single women, there's no one looking for them in the evening time. They could go do what they want to do. They could stay out all night. They could leave for work
Mm,
and go party, and if they come home they do, if they don't they don't. That was not my narrative. And for me, when I did decide to start dating, it was important that if I was dating someone, I was going to date them first for like 3 months, but they were not
mm,
going to meet my kids.
that's right.
And it was very important to me that if my kids didn't like a person, and I had to learn this
Mm,
the hard way, if
mm-hmm,
my kids did not like a person, there could be no relationship between myself and that person. Because when you have young children, you know, you have to, if you're going to be involved with someone, there has to be someone who is going to be very clear that your children are in your life. Your
mm-hmm.
children don't disappear. Your children can't go away.
That's right.
They can't be quiet when you want them to, that sort of thing.
We're a
So
package deal.
and if your children don't have a feeling or a liking towards that person, that's normally a good sign that they are not the one. Just want to tell you.
Exactly. They're not the
So
one.
they're not the one. So,
Not the
keep that
one.
in mind, and have, you know, real conversations with your children about that.
Mm-hmm.
If that's your situation, as your children, speak to them on their level, but do ask. Because
Mm-hmm.
I remember I said to my son, before, I said, "Hey, I'm going to start dating. um do you want to meet the people I'm going to date?" And my son's exact words,
Morales.
he says, he was like, "Nope, because I don't want a bunch of Negroes in and out of my house." That's what my son said. So there you have it. You know,
Oh God.
and my son has always been, he is very vocal, very intelligent. When I first moved,
He is his mother's child.
yes, he is. When I first moved to Atlanta, and for those of you who are from Atlanta and have lived here for a while, you will remember that there used to be a supermarket chain called Cub Foods, and we were in Cub Foods, my son and I, and he was like 4,
Mhm.
early 4 at that. He was like 4 years old, I think.
Is that when you
And
lived on Boring Road?
yeah, no, this is when I first moved back. When I first moved back to
When
Atlanta,
did you when did you live on Boring? Didn't you live on
I
Boring
did live
Road?
on Boring Road. Yes, that was
Remember
after.
he's always telling me, he said we live on Boring Road and it's boring.
Oh wait, yes, he said, and it's always boring. That's why it's Boring Road. You are absolutely correct.
Remember
But
this.
Rondell and I were in the store, and you stand in a line waiting, and then this gentleman starts talking to me. My 4-year-old stands between us, and he goes, "Excuse me, she has a husband. You need to get your own wife." He shut that down. When I say he shut that down, he shut it down. It was like, and it was like, "Okay, thanks, son." And then the guy, of course, stopped talking, as he should have. Um, but he stopped talking. And so that's what I'm saying. It's stuff like that your children need those opportunities, to be able to discern. Because when your children know that, have a father, and sometimes even if daddy's trying to get back in the picture, he may teach them that, unfortunately. But I'm just saying, it is also teaching a sense of protection, and learning
It's true.
how to look out for the women in your life, not just
Exactly.
your mother, but
Exactly.
your mother, your
Hmm.
sisters, your cousins, you know. So it's just your grandmas, so there is so many facets to fatherhood, just like there's so many
It is. It
facets
is.
to motherhood. And like anything in life, there are layers, right? And
Yes, it
sometimes
is.
sometimes we got to peel back some layers, and we got to
Mm-hmm.
scrape some stuff out,
Mm-hmm.
we got to
Mm-hmm.
patch it, we got to put some salve on it, got to stitch it up, let it heal, and then we can start maybe putting some layers lightly, again. But every
Not
father
only that, we have to
every
like
father should have the opportunity to be a father, if that's
they
what
they really
he decides
should.
to
I
do.
mean, it's not, and I would just would like to say, like, let's not plan on making people fathers that don't want to be fathers. or have no
Very,
intention of being fathers, that
very
is
big.
not that is not a good
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
at all.
Don't I'm telling you,
Don't do that.
in this day and time in life, right? We
Hmm.
all have the ability. And so this is not judgment. I'm just
No,
saying,
not at
and
all.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, because the person who suffers
It's the
is not
child.
is the child. And so that's why I'm saying that, right? Because
Babies don't keep a
ladies,
man. Babies don't
ladies,
keep a man. People don't keep
right?
marriage. Babies don't do none of that.
No, it will
Baby should
not.
not be born in this world with a job. So
Yes,
for you to say, "Oh, if I have his baby and make him stay," nah, it doesn't work
no,
like that. Okay,
no,
he may stay, but he may have a whole
right,
bunch of other people. You know, it's not
right.
gonna work.
And if
Just
and
doesn't work.
you know, if you meet a man and he already has multiple children,
From
then
multiple women.
you might you might want to reconsider.
May want
I,
to
I'm
break that. You gotta break
I'm just
that.
gonna say you might want to reconsider. And that's
Yes,
not to say
absolutely.
he's a bad person. I'm
No,
just
not at
simply
all.
saying that he already has enough children to manage.
Exactly.
Okay.
No, you're saying that
And
he's a very potent person, probably very very good looking. Women want
yes,
his genes. Like we was talking about the guy, he's
yes,
so nice
yes,
looking. Everyone
yes.
have his
Every
baby, but he
back
didn't
when
make
we
that
were growing up, you looked at guys for their curly hair. Ooh, I want to date
exactly.
him, and I would have baby for him because he cute, and we will have beautiful children.
It didn't
Don't
work. Then it's
believe,
not working
do
now.
not
Yeah,
believe the hype. Do not believe the hype.
yeah, because
But but
that little thing like this. Before
yes,
you know it, that's that. You know when it's all little
yes,
and cute. You know,
yes.
like I told you, I had to talk this man. He was a really nice man. This guy used to be engaged, but I had a store, and he did all the work in my store for me. And one day he said, Stephanie, you know, he was an older man. He said, "You're such a nice young lady." He said, "I would like for you to talk to, this girl. She's in high school." And this is why I'm like, 27, 26.
Hmm.
And he said, "I want you to just talk to her because, she, I like her. She was my nephew's, I think it was his nephew, if I'm not mistaken, my nephew's girlfriend." And he said, she's having a baby. I think she's like 16 or 17.
Mm,
And, I felt for the girl because she was not planning on having a baby.
hmm.
But after speaking to her and learning that she was so hurt that he had like at least two or three other girls on the block was also pregnant from him.
Mm.
And he was just going from house to house, seed to seed. And these kids have to grow up. You have to raise these kids, and it's expensive. It's not cheap to have these children.
But it's just
And
not money.
fun,
It's a lifetime commitment.
yes,
I
and you can't like to love and
it's a lifetime
you're not in a
commitment.
relationship with none of these people anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? That is that, and I've seen it. I'm a product of it, and
Right.
it's nothing really good about that. You have to be
Right.
so careful. Even I could see that, with I wanted a third child, but I was like, nah, I could see where it was going. Why would I do that?
Yeah.
But I know people that just do and they like, well, because I wanted a third child, but look at the poor baby. Because now, if your other kids are older, they had time to spend with the in-house father. Because an in-house father is different from an out of the house father. And so now, I have a friend that goes to that. The guy is my friend. You know what I mean? And so his youngest son doesn't know. Well, he spent a lot of time with him, but he didn't get the same benefits as the older children
Hmm.
because they were getting ready to get a divorce, and she's pregnant. She was pregnant. He didn't think the baby was his. He
Hmm.
was shocked. He said, he said, I couldn't think the baby was mine. So when they got divorced, she took the baby and moved to another state, and he stayed here with his older kids. By the time she came back with the baby to the same state and got her kids back. The baby was like 2 or 3 years old, so he
Hmm.
missed all that time with his father. You know,
Mm.
and
Well,
it's like, yeah, but he spends a lot of time with him now. He's like 15. He takes a lot of time up so they can build that, same relationship. You know what I mean? Because he's another one. We've been friends since college, and he is a great dad to all of his children. He got 6 children. He's a great dad to all of them, and I like the way he really takes care of his children.
yeah.
That's important.
So So we just want to say, you know,
I know. It's all the great
happy
fathers in the
Father's Day.
world.
We want to say a happy blessed Father's Day to all the fathers out there. And whether
Yes,
you're a seasoned father, whether you're a young father trying to
that's
figure it
right.
out, you're the in-between father, you don't know whether you're coming or going at the moment. You're the stepfather, or you are stepping in for someone else.
Mhm.
Not even in,
Exactly.
like, you may not even be in a relationship with this mother, not an
Mhm.
intimate relationship, but you are there to support her with her children. you know
Exactly.
then be that wonderful father to the children who may not have the father in their life. And when you see these young children, and I'm not just talking the boys, I'm talking boys and girls, when you see young children out there that you know that if it was just maybe a kind word or some
Mhm.
words of wisdom from a male perspective,
Right.
right? You don't have to come in and say, I know you don't have no daddy, and I'm just
Mhm.
going, I'm trying to help you out.
Yeah, right, right,
Just,
right, right. Yeah,
just,
yeah, we don't need
just,
all that.
right. Just reach out. Just reach out and just try
Exactly.
to help. And that, I have taken people's numbers. I've heard people's stories, taken their numbers and given them to men that I know and say, hey, call this kid,
Hmm.
because this
Wow.
kid needs something that
Hmm.
I cannot give them as a woman,
Hmm.
right? I can woo them and I can pray for them, but what they need is some male perspective. And a
Right,
male's
right, right. Hmm.
perspective is so important, right?
It is.
Men
It is.
men and if there were not men, we would not have children.
Exactly.
And
But that,
we would not have a vibrant growing society or culture.
we wouldn't. But that,
So
that goes back to the joke. What came first, the chicken or the egg?
yeah,
Because
and yet we still don't know the answer to that
we
question.
still do not know, but we need
Right,
both. That's why
right,
we need both. But
right.
let me
We
tell
need
you,
both. Both are just as
Eddie Murphy was
vitally
on the.
important.
It is very important. Eddie Murphy was on The View when Coming to America 2 came out,
Yes,
and they asked him about his 10 children,
yes,
and he said, my children are my greatest achievement."
yes,
And it was so beautiful. He said, "It's not a bad one in the bunch." He said, "I love my children." He says, "The best thing I ever did." And it
yes,
was something so beautiful about that,
right.
you know, because the reality, which I've learned like years ago, even as being a mother, being a father, you can have all the success you want in the world. You mess up your children's life
Mm,
by the things that you do,
yes.
your success is not going to cover for any of that.
No,
Not
it
at
does
all.
not. It does
It,
not.
it, it does not. So that's everything. If you're going to put them here, bring them here, then you need to do your best by them. They deserve all of that and
Yes.
more. I mean, I know mothers too that, oh, now I have another man, I got to have a baby. I have to forget about that baby, you know, and you can't. They deserve so much more than that. Can't throw your
Everybody
children away.
everybody deserves a father.
Yes,
And
yes,
if
they
your
do.
and if your even if your father has passed away, then
Hmm.
I really do pray that you have very fond memories of them.
Definitely.
If you don't know your father, I pray that there was a male in your life who stepped in and filled the void for where your
Hmm.
father may not have stood for you. And if your father was there and then still did not fulfill those obligations, I still pray that there was someone, that you have met someone in your life, or that you will meet someone in your life that will fill that void for you. But to the fathers, again, we just want to say we love you. We are so proud of you and we thank God for you, because without you, there would be none of us.
I
And
know that's right.
so we
I,
thank you, fathers, and we really, really want to wish you a wonderful, blessed Father's Day. We celebrate you, we lift you up, we pray for you, and we pray God's strength over you in your fatherhood journey.
and I just want to thank Arthur Lee Miles my cousin's husband, who has been like a father to me since I'm 14 years old.
Amen.
And he's just a great man. I was talking to him today, and he's just like my father died when I was 14, and then my cousin started dating him, and he has just been a constant in my life since I'm 14 years old. So I want to thank you, Arthur, for everything.
Thank you, Arthur. Well, we want to thank you all too for joining us tonight and listening to us. And again, we really are wishing all the fathers a wonderful Father's Day weekend. And we hope you get all the love, all your flowers, all your
Yes,
barbecues,
yes,
all your time to watch sports, whatever it
mhm,
is that you want.
that's
We hope
right.
that you get that. So, ladies, children, do not forget to celebrate your fathers and let
That's
them know
right.
that you love them.
Hmm.
And
That's
so
right.
we thank you all for joining us. Again, I am Iris Denise Owens. I was so happy to be with you tonight. And my lovely co-host, my sister.
It's Stephanie D. Green.
Yes,
It was a pleasure as always.
as always, as
And
always.
just enjoy the weekend, enjoy the love. It's
Yes.
beautiful.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
And so we love you all. Have a great weekend. Smooches. Bye, honey.
Bye, honey.